Hello, everybody. Welcome back to Crypto Today. I'm Charles.
And I'm Justin. Good to see you. There's not a dog in the room.
Yeah, this is Leia. Just kidding. She's
Is it named after Star Wars?
Yes.
Good.
Yeah, like Princess Leia.
Good. That's the only way to do it. If it was named for any other reason after Leia, I'd be disappointed.
Yes.
That's a good
So I'm taking care of my parents' dog while they're on spring break with my sister.
Mm-hmm.
So that's why this dog is here.
Well, this is your sister, right? It's Leia.
Yeah, basically, she's majestic.
If you're Luke, then she'd be your sister, right?
My name's not Luke.
It is for today's show, since that's Leia. She trumps you, so she just modified your name on the fly.
She's literally sitting on me.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just like, yeah, this
She owns you.
is this is actually my show.
Yeah, she owns
you.
you.
Get out of here.
What's going on, Mike?
You want to look at the camera? Leia? Want to look at the camera?
No.
Not look at me. Camera? Boom. Done. She did it once.
Easy enough. All right, so let's jump into the prices real quick, and then we can talk about some stuff that matters.
Yeah.
Bitcoin sitting in first place at $3,917.52, up 0.19% on the 24-hour period. Ethereum in second place at $133.62, up 0.22% on the 24-hour period. XRP in third place, sitting at 0.31313. Okay, down 0.48% on the 24-hour period. And our top mover, let's see. Yep, looks like it's still going to be Qtum or Quantum or whatever you want to call that. Number 29, and that is $2.65 currently, up 23.67% on the 24-hour period. Pretty big mover.
Yeah.
Good deal. That's pretty much it. So, yeah.
I almost thought you were about to start reading off like pi because you're like 0.313.
Yeah.
I was like, oh my gosh. I'm just kidding. It'd be funny if they somehow manipulated their price point to be pi.
Who was it? I think it was Google. They were buying patents. I think it was from Motorola or something back in the day. What's up, dog? I'm pretty sure it was Motorola, and they put in a bid against like a bunch of other companies that were trying to get a bunch of patent trolls, and then like Microsoft and some other companies that were trying to get a bunch of like cell phone oriented patents and stuff, and their bid was pi. It was 3.14159 blah 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 something $1 million or something like that.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it's clever. I like it when nerds get to do nerdy stuff in the real world. But yeah, now we're just watching the dog roam around the set. Like, okay, let's not pee on that power strip.
It's like $100 power strip. Probably looking for a place to poop.
And fry everything attached to it.
Yeah,
too,
I know, right? Or just
which
like
would be a lot more expensive.
Hey, up here, come on, right here. No,
I don't think she'd actually do that, but it would be kind of
I'm just gonna hold her leash
terrible / funny if it did.
It'll anchor herself. Cool.
All right, so let's jump into some stuff. I'm gonna start off with something that was kind of funny. This one is a tweet shared by @Lop or Jameson Lop. And he says, nothing to see here, just the president of Kosovo unlocking his computer that certainly doesn't contain any sensitive information. And if you watch the video, it is freaking hilarious because it just has him sitting there unlocking his computer, and you see him just go like this in a straight line. And then he hits enter to unlock his computer.
Password 12345.
It's either
6.
1 through 6,
yeah,
or some people are saying it might be QWERTY. And then somebody pointed out that it's a different language, obviously. So they have a different keyboard format. In which case, I'm actually looking at it right now, but I could not, by any stretch of my imagination, tell you what these characters were called.
I can probably read them. Let me see.
I mean, it's in Serbian, in
yes,
Cyrillic.
I got this.
You know Cyrillic?
Oh man, it looks like squiggly line plus B, H plus B, E,
okay,
P, T, and then 3.
Yep. Sounds like really bad chemistry.
Definitely sounds like I got that 100% correct.
Yeah, without a doubt.
Oh yeah.
And then there were some people that responded to it. There was also kind of hilarious. Somebody posted a video of his daughter unlocking her computer.
She did the same thing?
No, actually, but it's pretty clever. I would never recommend doing it, but it's pretty clever. So she has a MacBook, and it just shows her open it. And then she goes, so there's the enter line, and she basically just starts on one end, drags her finger all the way across, and then ends on enter, which puts in the password. So it's basically slide to unlock on the keyboard.
Taking smartphone unlocks to the next
I was
level.
like, that's clever. I got to give her that. That's a weak ass password, but it's clever.
And it'll break your keyboard.
Yeah,
It'll destroy that.
Yeah.
There's that.
And then somebody else shared saying that him and Kanye West must have read the same book on strong passwords. And he's got a video attached to it where Kanye was apparently in the Oval Office, and while like he's surrounded, like how now it's just like all over the internet. I wonder if he even knows that his password's being shared around the internet.
Probably not. But then again, a simple dictionary attack.
Yeah, it wouldn't even matter. Yeah, they definitely wouldn't need his Twitter account.
Like literally, it's like password and then 1 through 6.
It's the first thing you try. Well, actually, no, it wouldn't be the first thing you tried. It would try 0. Well, it would depend on, I guess, the number of variables, but it would try 0, then 0, 1.
The Serbian
0,
version
2.
of QWERTY.
It would crack it within a half of a second at least. That would be the longest I'd imagine it would take. Yeah, I would have to know to specifically go with that keyboard, which I suspect it would, because they'd have to be specifically targeting him most likely.
Yes.
Okay, moving on. We've got a interesting survey. And this comes from leaprate.com.
Leap rate?
I don't know what that is,
Okay.
but they're putting out an article, and all it's doing is actually it's linking to a survey done, so I don't really need to trust them all that much. But it's got some pretty interesting anecdotes of information that it kind of pulled out of the article. And so here's a few things that it points out. So first, the title of it says, Crypto Survey, 60% of crypto users uncomfortable after sending payments. Which, I mean, that, yeah.
Of surveyed
kind of makes sense. Yeah. Well, so they took 200 people surveyed, and they split the field. So they split them between people who had been using it for 3 years or longer, and then people who had been using it for less than 3 years, but had used it before. Otherwise, they wouldn't have anything to add. Because this is all basically off of like, it was about kind of like experience situation, like did it feel like it was up to the task? How well did it go through? How stressed out were you when you sent it? That kind of stuff. So here's a few interesting things that they pulled as their results. Says that almost 3/4 of respondents, 73% specifically, sent a few payment or transfer transactions during 2018. So 73% of the people sent at least a few transactions in the entire year of 2018. So not that many people using it for consistent things. Next one, most crypto users feel their heart skip a beat when they press send on a Bitcoin payment.
Okay, maybe like my first or second time. Not gonna lie.
Yeah, I mean, I would say that for me, it's pretty much every time, but it's only because you know that it's a permanent send, effectively. Barring
so you get anxiety every
situations.
time you press the send button?
I don't know if I would say anxiety.
He gets cold sweats.
But it's just like there's something in the back of my mind every time where it's like I go through extra checks before I ever send it. But there's always in the back of my mind like, all right, did I actually get all that right? And then I second guess myself for a second, and I'm like, okay, yeah, I did. I checked it.
You ever like put like the address like up against the screen of where you're sending it from? You're like,
oh god, yeah,
100 times
every single time, every single time.
Yeah,
I check every single character.
Yep.
Yeah, because I mean that's the thing. Like one of the things that I'd point out, because this can make it sound like the people don't trust the system, they don't trust cryptocurrency. When in reality, what should be taken from this or gleaned from it would be that it doesn't have super good user experience yet, which needs to be improved. Yeah. But I think most people trust the actual system. I know that whatever I type in, if I hit send, it's going to go there if it can.
Oh, 100%.
Right. So
there is.
The problem that makes everybody uncomfortable is themselves, doubting themselves and anybody who's trying to hack them. It's like, did I use copy paste for this,
attack.
And did I get did I have a virus that changed that to someone else's address and all that kind of stuff? So it's not the technology itself, it's kind of our current state of user experience that's kind of being questioned on the comfort side of things.
Makes sense. I typically type it in.
Yeah, I do every single time. I never do copy paste.
I've done copy paste once and then referenced it, but then like I think I hit backspace and just typed it in just in case.
I mean, I'll do the the QR code scan.
Yeah.
If it's like a decently small amount of money or something.
I'm just kidding.
If it's like $10 that I'm sending, then I'll just scan the QR code. I'm still going to read every single character. But
hey, $10 is $10.
But yeah, I'll at least do that instead of typing it in manually. All right, next up, they've got a handful of them. Most crypto users described their experience as cautiously optimistic after sending a payment, but only 1/4 of the group felt very comfortable. Okay.
Probably shouldn't feel that comfortable. Probably a little too comfortable.
Yeah. 60% of new users failed to answer very comfortable after sending a crypto payment. So 60%. So the very comfortable people primarily came from the 3 years or more category.
Yeah.
60%. So the majority of the new people did not find it very comfortable. Most crypto users said they experienced problems when sending Bitcoin or another asset to someone else.
Really?
Yeah. Now, there's no telling what that may be or what their experience was. And this didn't necessarily specify if they were only questioned about 2018 as far as an experience or just in general, especially if you're talking about the newer group with 3 years or less, because a lot of their experience may have come from when we had the run-up, which case that not working situation may have been whenever we had the fees going through the damn roof because people couldn't make it into a block because there's too much transferring going on and all that.
Yeah.
So there's just, it's hard to know exactly what that's being pulled from. A little bit more significantly, however, it says that 20% of users actually had a problem severe enough to prevent the successful completion of the transaction, which usually comes down to like two things. It would either be the situation like we had with the run-up where you just couldn't get into a block, or it would be a situation where they're trying to pay something that's using, say, a payment processor, and it doesn't go through in time, so that the payment amount gets changed, and then it doesn't. It kind of cancels it out.
Yeah.
You have an issue
because you had the fees or whatever.
Yeah. And then it says that as for general usage, only 11% of those polled claimed to have averaged at least one transaction a week. The majority of users, however, rarely used crypto at all. Which that doesn't really mean too much to me, but interesting nonetheless, I guess. 11% of people used it once a week.
Hashtag hodl.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, that's kind of where it's at. It just makes sense. I don't necessarily see that as an indicator of it going the wrong way, because it's a characteristic of where it's currently at. I don't necessarily think that means that nobody's ever going to want to spend it. But that does point to something, because you do have the perspective of things don't just fundamentally change for no reason. So if nobody's spending money, like that dog jumped up there, and I'm sure it had a reason. But so, if nobody's spending it today, it's not necessarily going to change down the line without any instigating factor that would change it. But in most cases, I think people would claim, or at least argue, that the price becoming less volatile, the price going up higher, and all of that kind of stuff will make people more apt to spend it. Though it'll always, I presume, be less spent than something like USD, which is inflationary. What's up, dog? How's it going, dude?
Yeah, so
over here.
Dave says, haha, you brought a date, JK. It's my parents' dog. I mean, they asked if I could take care of her. It's so much better than Doggy Hotel. Like, but I didn't want to leave her alone because I know she...
Did you charge them as much as a Doggy Hotel?
I didn't,
because those things charge out the ass.
Yeah, I didn't charge.
You need to go back and change your terms.
Change the contract terms. Yes, that'll be 3 Bitcoin.
Yes, immediately. Payable in advance. What else do we got? Forbes.com, crypto assets hit with warning from global bank regulators for the first time. And it's pretty short, but it says the continued growth of crypto asset trading platforms and new financial products related to crypto assets has the potential to raise financial stability concerns and increase risks faced by banks. So this is the Basel Committee which is basically out to protect banks. Like, that's all it's really there to do. It's not necessarily just a generic financial situation. It's to make sure that banks handle this kind of situation appropriately and don't get, I guess, maybe perhaps too enamored with the technology or just make bad decisions and face very negative repercussions for it. One thing that's interesting is that it cites some of the risks and concerns that they see, and it says that those include liquidity risks, credit risk, market risk, operational risk, including fraud and cyber risks, as well as money laundering and terrorist financing risk. Which, especially those last two, pretty much all of them, I thought were just features of a bank. I thought that's just what they offered anyway. Like, is there a bank left that hasn't been fined for money laundering and terrorist financing?
No.
So why is that? Why is it a risk from cryptocurrency? It doesn't make sense to me.
They have lobbyists. They tell them what they want.
True. But it also, like, I don't know, they're going to be focusing. What's up?
She's so cute.
Well, they're going to be focusing on any bank that's going to be looking at doing it now is primarily going to be looking at the kinds of things that they can do themselves in a very controlled manner on an intranet system.
Yeah.
Or they're going to be looking very timidly into the bigger, more liquid, more pronounced cryptocurrencies.
Anonymous.
Basically the top few. Yeah, definitely not like Monero or anything like that. They're not ready for that. But something like BTC, BCH, Ethereum, Ripple, those kinds of like top cryptos are the ones that they're most likely going to be looking at. And most of those are really bad for money laundering and all of that and terrorist financing and so I don't know. I don't really get all the concerns.
You know, way worse than cash.
It's true. Yeah. Well, except the fact that if you're transferring across borders, taking like a van full of $100 bills might be kind of tricky. That shit gets heavy fast.
I'm sure you speak from personal experience.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I transfer vans full of $100 bills constantly.
I was gonna say, apparently it gets heavy really fast.
Well, it does. Money's not that light. That's pretty heavy.
Dave says, how many times have they called to check in on the dog? Three times they've texted.
Yeah, the dog calls them. Just paws at his phone. Called 911. It's like,
it licks my phone, talks to other dogs in the neighborhood.
That should be an app, actually. It's like so Tinder for dogs.
Tinder? That's like a whole different connotation.
Yeah, but it's the only way they would end up using it.
Yeah.
If we're being legit.
Maybe they want to go on doggy play dates and, you know, eat
lunch. What does a doggy play date consist of, Charles?
I don't know.
I don't know what else they would do. They don't have opposable thumbs.
So they can't play baseball?
Yeah, exactly.
Okay. All right.
Yeah. What else do you do? All anybody does is play baseball. So then we've got the video. Now that you have no hands.
Here, let me just
get the dog to do it.
I can do it.
It needs to pull its weight.
I just have to reverse my brain and think that right click is actually left click and left click is actually right click.
That why?
It's not. It's just I just have to use the hand a left hand. I'm not left-handed. Okay. All right.
Makes sense now.
Yes. So, do you want to preface the video real quick?
Yeah. Well, I mean, so there's a movie coming out. So maybe you haven't seen this, maybe you have. But in 2019, late this year, there should be a movie called The Crypto coming out. Looks kind of interesting.
It does.
You gotta help? If I can. Where did you find this kid?
Top of his class at Wharton. First-round draft pick on Wall Street.
It's uncertain to me how high these conspiracies go.
You've made it impossible for a company with revenue exceeding $7 billion to do business with us.
They're reassigning you to Elba, New York.
That's where I grew up.
What's up, man? What are you doing here?
I'm an AML officer, anti-money laundering.
What brings you in today?
I need to talk to the owner.
You're acting like you want to find something wrong.
You're acting like I'm going to.
No phone number, no email, just 10 million in cryptocurrencies.
I had a client who was interested in that stuff. Baker farm with your daddy. He was offered 7 figures.
When I see things like this, I get pretty worried.
You must know all kinds of things back there behind the curtain.
Martin?
We have a serious problem here. I'm pretty sure the Russian mafia is laundering money through the Omni branch here.
Hey, man, you following me or something?
Yes.
You need to get this stuff organized and out there.
I found this on the porch. Hey, I'm Dad. These people are dangerous.
I warned you.
Well, nobody could be prepared for whatever that was.
You're a very clever boy.
Do I have what you want? No, let him go.
Well.
So it looks kind of interesting. I'm pretty sure you still haven't even actually seen it.
I have not seen it.
And we don't have any audio, so you still haven't seen it. So now everybody here knows what's going on, except for you.
Thank you, Dave, for the coins. We're having audio issues. Our Bluetooth transmitter, like the battery blew up.
Yes,
So
yeah.
appreciate
Thank
the
you.
coins.
Yeah.
She keeps liking.
But yeah, so basically, here's some things that were being said about it, which I thought were interesting myself. They said that it's dubbed a thriller in the vein of The Firm, which I think is an awesome movie. Old movie, but an awesome movie. And The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, which I've personally never seen. And then it says that crypto centers on a young anti-money laundering agent who's tasked with investigating a tangled web of corruption and fraud in his remote New York hometown. And then it goes into more detail than that, but that's basically the summary of it. So that's kind of cool. A lot of people were kind of hating on it, saying things, reading into it, saying things like it's a anti-freedom, anti-privacy, anti-crypto, like hit piece kind of thing. I think it's just a movie. I think they're just trying to make a fun movie.
No, there's
I mean,
always
it has
dual intent.
It has everything you would
Nothing's ever
expect
pure.
it to have for this kind of movie. Like,
Yeah.
it uses Russia now as the bad guy. Like, that's where we're politically at. For a long time, it was like Koreans. Before that, it was like the
like the
Japanese.
Cold War.
Like, so many different things. Yeah, we just go through, depending on what we're going through politically, we choose our villain based off of that.
Sure.
And that's what we have here, Russia as the villain. And then you got cryptocurrency as a means of payment, just because it's still like technical and cool and has this air of like
Russian hackers, right?
Like hacking and a underworld, underbelly kind of situation to it, kind of atmosphere.
That's why the NSA loves our show.
Yeah, that's why they watch us just to stay in the know.
I'm sure they want to know when the next crypto movie comes out.
They do. But yeah, so that's, I mean, it's everything in it is just what you would expect from a movie of the time period. Crypto's popular, it's cool, it's valuable, and it's transferable. So obviously, in this kind of movie, especially when you're talking about like Russian espionage or whatever, it's going to be the money of choice. Also, you've got Russia as the villain, obviously going to be the current atmosphere for that.
Yes.
So, I mean, it just makes sense. It's crazy, I think, that people really look into things like that.
Well,
but
you
that's
know what
pretty
they
much it for
say.
that movie.
Kroger's about to start accepting crypto.
God damn it.
So, yeah.
There's actually something else I wanted to bring up
What's that?
that has pretty much nothing specifically to do with crypto, It has to do with money in general.
Story time?
It can be applied to crypto.
Okay.
But it's also for regular money. It's just something that I notice people doing, including myself sometimes, but just in general, I notice people doing it. And I think that it can really benefit people to just change their perspective a little bit on it. Because one thing that I've noticed is the easiest example here will be for USD and not necessarily crypto. And you'll kind of see why. But with like USD, everybody seems to think about it as being stationary, as being stagnant, as being a fixed rate. And it is, and I'm not really going to the point of it's volatile, so it's like Bitcoin, and Bitcoin's volatile, but look, USD actually is too, you just don't notice it and all that kind of shit. I'm not making that kind of argument. What I'm saying is the amount that USD is worth, when you see a price in USD, what you're really kind of seeing is like an average asking price. What the USD is actually valued at depends on your capability of changing its value. Money is a tool that's only as powerful or as weak as whoever's holding it. So if you can negotiate down a price, you've now made your money more valuable than this guy standing next to you who didn't do that. It's the case for any business. That's why businesses are always trying to negotiate down prices and that kind of thing, and trying to focus on cutting budgets and all of that. But it's the same for the individual as well. And I'm not necessarily saying go into Starbucks and haggle the guy, be like, oh, come on, I only have $1. Give me that $10 coffee. But you can, in most parts of your life, that's something that you can really kind of do. You can feasibly, if you just change your mentality on what money is. When you see a price of like $500 on something, don't just immediately think, all right, fixed rate, $500, that's what that is. You should think about your money as kind of like a variable tool, a variable extension of you. It's your hammer. Some people can use a hammer to make an awesome cabinet, and some people like me can barely nail something into the wall if they have to. It's the same thing for money.
Yeah, he's pretty bad at that.
I'm really bad at that.
Just kidding. He's not that bad.
But yeah,
That's
so I mean,
cool.
that's
a
just
good way to think about it.
It's just something that I kind of think about, and I noticed a lot of people. I don't see very many people really think about that. We just see like a wall practically is kind of how I see it. It's like we're told that this is how money is. We're told that this is how the world is, and this is how we have to interface with it. When in reality, we can affect the environment. We can affect our atmosphere. We kind of choose. New stream mascot. That's right.
What's up, Exy? Yep.
Yeah.
She's taking a nap, so I'm not going to bother.
That's Princess Leia.
Yeah. It's my parents' dog.
And his dog.
My parents' dog. They went on vacation, and I offered to take care of her instead of, letting her go to a doggy hotel. So, yeah. Well, they asked, and the alternative was a doggy hotel, and I was like...
That's when you just like, I'll knock 5% off of it. She'll be with somebody that cares about her and will take care of her. She doesn't have to be around all the stressful other dogs.
Apparently every time she goes to one of those and comes back, she's like traumatized.
Yeah.
So I'm like, okay, well,
we did
at least
that
she
with our
knows
dog
me,
once. Yeah, little dogs especially kind of have a hard time with that.
Yeah.
I mean, not that she's a super little dog. She's not like a tiny Yorkie, but she's still a smaller dog compared to a lot of the dogs that would be there.
Yeah, she gets like separation anxiety and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, she's super cute, but surprisingly, like, because I've had her at my house, there's like 3 dogs that the neighbor has, and those dogs bark all the freaking time. She hasn't barked like once in response to them at all.
She's too good for that.
I guess so. I was like, wow.
Those little neighbor dogs are beneath her.
When I saw the pink, I knew it was your dog. Dave, it's not my dog. I mean, she is a girl, though, so if she wants to wear pink, she can wear pink. I'm not going to knock her on that. It's her decision.
Yeah.
Anyway.
She can wear whatever she wants.
So I've never actually thought of money in the way you explained it, as like my money has more, I guess, value if I can, make other people perceive it to have more value by negotiating a price down, right?
Mm-hmm.
I have negotiated prices down because I know like the more money I have, the easier it is to do other things. Like then you can also like you have more money to earn interest and on other stuff. You know what I mean? Like it's just common sense, in my opinion, to try to negotiate something down, something within reason. You don't go into Best Buy and be like, this computer's $1,000, and you're like, well, will you take 700 for that? Like, I don't know if you could really do that. Like,
It's got a dent in it.
What is this, like a
Give you
Indian bazaar?
$500.
You know?
Right.
I have done that in India. I have negotiated prices down there. I've negotiated prices down in Israel, in Costa Rica. Never done it. Actually, I have done it in Mexico.
Yeah. Well, and there's tons of ways to do it. I mean, it doesn't necessarily even have to be like, I can think of one example, for instance. It doesn't have to be an individual circumstance. So the one that I'm thinking of involves the two of us. So this water is where, excuse me.
The best. Oh, what's up, Patrick?
What's going on? So the example I'm thinking of
is a silent treatment. Nice.
We have office space that we both utilize,
yes.
And I talked to the people who offered the service for it multiple times ahead of time, and it was basically, here's the rate. Then you called in and you brought up that you had a military history, and which is usually a good idea to do because a lot of things give you a discount on that. And they said that they don't really do a discount on that, but they, because you had that, worked with you to give us a much, much, much better rate, where they gave the annual rate, but we were still just on a monthly situation rather than being locked into something, which is about as good as they could probably do, which is something that in a million years with a trillion conversations, I couldn't have done because I just don't have that thing that that guy appreciated. So it's like, it's not even, you also have to be willing to utilize kind of other resources, whether it be person to person, goes back and forth, help each other out, that kind of thing. Because a lot of times, if there's something that somebody can't accomplish, pretty much everybody knows somebody that is really good at that thing. Like somewhere in your degree of friend circle or work circle or whatever it is, there's going to be somebody that specializes in that practically, whether it just be on like a actual employment situation or just as a hobby. And then you can do kind of set something up with them where you do kind of I'll scratch your back if you scratch mine kind of situation, and kind of work with each other. And
to an example, first of all, was a Hello Melted Crayons. That's a cool name. Okay. So one of my I guess one of my more recent acquaintances, he's very interesting. He's like, I want to say he's like 55, but he works for a company that like has like a software that does some like machine learning / artificial intelligence type stuff. Very, very interesting. And I mean, like the data it outputs is only as good as the data you input. So it's more like algorithmic stuff. Right. So he has access to other people in his network that can help me with something that I need. So he's looking for a sale for the company he works for, and I'm looking to expand my network. And so in exchange, like what I did is I introduced him to somebody I knew who's like, you know, who knows the CEO of like another company who could actually implement this kind of software. And he's introducing me to this other gentleman who I need to know. So it's like, it's kind of like almost like a bartering in a way.
Yeah.
But it's
social
very
networking, bartering.
Yeah.
That's how, when you meet enough people, you can kind of, that kind of becomes its own form of currency.
Yes.
Like that's usually when you get to a certain point, people don't necessarily trade physical value between each other. Like it's far more valuable in many like business perspective situations to trade favors and relationships and that kind of thing. And that's really a lot of times kind of how business is done.
And like when you're talking to like, say like a family office or something like that, you have this guy who, you know, is the front face of this, you know, family who has a bunch of money. That guy vets people coming to them, you know, vets possible investments, businesses, and the family gets like a little bit of info depending on whether or not they're hands-on. It just depends. And then like that family would go off that person's recommendation, but it's like the person making the recommendation doesn't have control over the money itself necessarily, but they control like they're doing the qualifying the leads, and they also have like access to the people with the cash, you know, in those family office instances. So it's very interesting because you're not going to go walk up to the guy, pay him $1,000 and just be like, yeah, let's get this done. you know, and he's like, yeah, here's your investment, just pay me off. Like, that's not going to happen because
Right.
he's probably getting plenty of money from the other guy. So his interest is purely genuine, you know, if he's good. And so it's like money can't even help you in that kind of situation. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
it's like, it truly is like your own merit, your own experience, you know, how good your idea is. And then from there, it's like, okay, well, are you trustworthy? And then they do their own like vetting. And
Yeah, I mean,
so
when it comes to like capital value, there is nothing more valuable than people.
yes.
Like just relationships and stuff like that. Like one of the things that I see people pointing out a lot of times, it's actually true, is that if you have like a CEO or somebody that you kind of look up to, you can oftentimes reach out to them. And if you approach it correctly, you have a decent chance of them giving you some time to give you some input on what it is that you're working on or where you're trying to go in your life, or sometimes even stay in contact with you and help you kind of along the way, because there's more value in the right person with the right personality and drive than there is in whatever amount of time that it takes for them to apply to that person.
Yeah.
They get a much bigger return on it. Plus that there's a good feeling of kind of giving back something that someone else has given to you along the way. Because most of the people that are in a higher position, they didn't get there on their own.
No,
Nobody
absolutely
does
not.
it solo.
A lot of people give back. Like I just met a gentleman named Steve Palco. He's the former founder of XTO, one of the former founders. XTO Energy just sold for like $31 billion to ExxonMobil like a couple of years ago. So now he actually teaches at like a local college. He went and got his PhD and stuff like that. And really he's only doing it to like give back, because he's like, I asked him about it. I was like, hey, you know, you're a billionaire. Why are you teaching? And I was like, is it because you want to be able to like politically influence like these people that are going to be like teachers? Because he specifically teaches classes that are like where people like come out and they become like vice principals and principals of schools and stuff. I was like, is that your goal? He's like, no. He's like, it's just I want to give back because education is one of the reasons that I got to where I got to.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow. So he's like, I just feel like giving back.
Yeah. It would basically have to be an altruistic reason for that situation, because even if he was trying to politically affect people, he could just pay somebody of that mentality to do that with that amount of money that wouldn't take up a significant portion of his time and everything. You have to really care to assign yourself personally to the task. So yeah, I mean, that's interesting.
It is. And like I don't know, it's just like money doesn't buy everything, but it can buy a lot of things. Like, I guess, I don't know if you've been watching the Wall Street Journal.
It has a lot of diminishing returns.
Have you been watching like the Wall Street Journal Bloomberg recently? By chance? Okay, so like basically there's a scandal that came out where a lot of like top influential people in the United States have been paying and bribing, you know, college officials to get their kids in the schools they want.
Oh,
So
yeah.
like payments on average are about $200,000.
Wait, that's
So
a
now
new
people
thing?
are getting. I know.
I thought we
It's-
already-
so it's not a new thing, right? But
It
it's
was just
finally like
known.
this stuff was tipped off, and now it's like
Okay.
coming out. So I don't know.
I
Dude.
don't know.
I don't know the legalities behind it. I'm not a
yeah.
lawyer. I just know that these people are in trouble.
Yeah. I mean, if it's a public school, it makes more sense to me. If it's a private school, I don't know why you couldn't do that. Private school, they should be able to do effectively whatever they want. If you want to pay them money to get your kid in there, I mean, one of the arguments for that is that one kid
Well,
that's getting paid to get in there is in some ways and covering for a bunch of kids that can't pay to get in there.
yeah, but at the same time, I think it might have something to do with like affirmative action, maybe, or something like that, where it's like the
It'll be
government's
interesting to
like, you
look at.
must have this many certain amount of people of this ethnicity, like in your college type situation.
Yeah.
So it's like if you mess with those numbers artificially, that could be the issue.
Have you seen the Netflix show? What's it called? Something Report.
Oh, nice.
I don't remember the actual something report, but it's got something Minaj or something on it. A comedian that does it. It's like it's semi-political, but it's mostly just like covering random kind of big stories and stuff. And one of the things that he covered was affirmative action.
Yeah.
And that it's kind of getting attacked right now, but by something that you wouldn't expect. But it's being attacked by the people that are covered by affirmative action.
Yes.
By the Asian Americans, specifically. I think it's Harvard or something.
I've seen this. I don't know where. I think it was just YouTube.
Well, it kind of blew up a little bit, so it's gotten like a bunch of articles written about it and stuff over the past like year or two, and he just covered it on his
They're
show
like,
too.
we're
but
not
he did
getting
a
in,
good
even though we
synopsis.
have the same merits. There was this, I think it might have been like a Vice. I don't know, something I watched recently. It was like an African American, an Asian American, and then another Asian American or whatever applying to some Ivy Leagues. And there was some, I guess they were very, very clearly like almost even as far as, you know, like I guess merits go. But some, it's just interesting. If you go find it on YouTube, I recommend watching it. It's really, it's kind of cool.
One of the things I thought was
I'm
funny.
not going to knock it. I'm just saying I just thought it was interesting.
Yeah. I've watched debates on it for a long time. I personally don't actually even have a stance on it.
Oh.
Patriot Act. Thank you. That's it. That is it.
I haven't
You
seen
got
that.
this.
I've seen
got my
it
back.
on
You
Netflix,
can always
but I
depend on
haven't
Lexi.
watched it yet.
Yeah.
Oh,
It's a good show. I enjoy it. He's pretty like and there's always going to be the realm of like when it gets political, there's going to be one side or the other.
Yep.
And it's definitely a liberally sided show. But most of the topics don't really lean into politics that much, so it's still kind of pretty cool.
Actually, I
for
just looked
everybody.
at it and I thought it was a conservative sided show. So I was like,
Oh, yeah?
I'm not going to watch that
No,
right
yeah,
now.
he's-
Because I watched Doomsday Preppers instead. I actually finished the entire season 2 they had on Netflix in like a day and a half.
Well, one thing I kind of appreciate about it is that the way he covers it almost just reminds me of a really good YouTube show. Like,
cool.
He kind of
Okay.
seems like a YouTuber where he's like more lively and he does it in a very unique way.
Yeah.
But other than that, it's a little bit like Last Week Tonight with John Oliver. That kind
That's
of thing where
funny.
they cover like different stuff and it's humor based, but it's a lot shorter and he's just more active.
So Pepperjack's adding clarity to the the bribery thing. He says it's a cheating scam too. They bribed SAT proctors to give the scores they wanted, and the Asians are being discriminated at Harvard. Yeah, that's one of the
So,
other things is they
one of
did
the
bribe for
things-
the tests.
That's interesting.
Yeah.
One of the things that he pointed out in the show that I thought was interesting, and I haven't looked much into this, so I might be completely putting my foot in my mouth here. So that's kind of dangerous. But
Please do.
what he
Be
pointed out
interesting.
was kind of interesting because it's like they're saying that it's nearly impossible for like an Asian American to get in there. That it's much more difficult, a higher bar for them to get in.
Yep.
But it's because they've been performing much higher. Statistically, they are like there's not that many Asian Americans in the country, but they are way overweighted in the college already. So it was something stupid. Like, and this is probably way off base, but I want to say it was like 70% of the people in that college were Asian Americans.
Yeah.
Like, so they're saying they're getting discriminated against. It's hard to get in there, but yet there's tons and tons of them in there. They're getting in. It's just they're all high in competition level, and it is a competition to get in. So I don't know. It's
kind of-
interesting.
I mean, okay. I
And
understand that.
70% is probably a completely made up number, but they were definitely like they were more in there than would statistically be expected for how many are in the country.
And the thing is like if you're going based off merits, then technically the colleges should accept
Gonna kill education more than most else.
from having to take the test. Or it's very
That
I
seems
don't know,
kind of
it's very
messed up.
interesting. Yeah.
Unless what they do is make it to where you can't graduate from the school without meeting the same requirements as would be met with the test.
Well, okay,
That would
so
be okay.
The tutor's daughter was the one who they explained that that's the process she was going through. Her English was far better than, no offense, the person who was prepping for the test that they were highlighting in the show.
Mm.
Like she sounded almost natural versus like the other guy who you clearly tell he was like learning from a tutor.
Mm. Yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't know. Very interesting.
Yeah. It's definitely interesting to see different cultures' take on education. I think the U.S. has a really, really shit-tastic take on education. I think as a whole, we are really bad at it. And I
Costs too
think
much
the
here.
further south you get, the even worse it gets. We definitely need to rework all of it.
Just costs too much.
Well, and I'm not even talking about college. I'm talking about just in general education. So our entire elementary system, middle school, high school, all of that, even pre-Ks and stuff like that should be treated differently. If we just wanted to invest in something, that should be where it goes. I mean, it's
it's going to be smart investment though. Like we can't just start giving money out, because if we do, then people will use it in dumb ways.
My mind just immediately went to like our $1 trillion getting spent on our military. That's like 10 times the size of anybody else's. Like, it's already being used in dumb ways. It'd just be slightly less dumb to try to make people smart. But I agree that it shouldn't be like, give this school $100 million for their football team. Like, no, it has to be an intelligent approach, and it needs to be done right. But just it needs love. It needs to be appreciated. And that's a cultural change. I'm not even saying from a governmental standpoint that's how it's going to have to eventually change, but that's only going to happen through culture. We have to actually start appreciating education. We have to actually start accepting science as a culture. Like the fact that 60% of Americans don't accept, or don't believe in, is how they say it, but it's actually accept for science, is how that they don't accept evolution is just fucking pathetic. But that's the US. We just don't actually care about education and reality, and it shows in our education system. They just are failing on the kind of global perspective. It's so disheartening.
Yeah.
On that optimistic note,
I don't know. I feel like, math has a better chance at helping society than anything else, and we suck at math.
Yeah, that's the other thing.
Yeah.
Our culture makes it to where it is actually a point of pride to be bad at math. Like, worst case scenario, people will be like, yeah, I'm bad at math. Like, you shouldn't be laughing about that.
No.
That shit's the language of our universe.
Yeah.
That's the one universal language we have on this planet. That's one of the most important things you could possibly know. It affects your daily life and finance. It affects your ability to do computer programming, think logically. It affects everything.
But
like,
I know where comma goes in a sentence.
Yeah. I mean, that is good, because that makes me want to vomit less when you tweet and text and stuff like that.
No, there's a program called Grammarly. You pay $130 a month, or no, $130 a year for, and that fixes all that for you. Guess what?
True.
You can afford that if you're good at math. So just
get programmed that if you're good at math.
I mean, yeah, because computer programming is basically just like logic. So anyway, pretty cool. We have the same thing with being bad at speaking French, because the education system is a lot due to raise the Prussian education system. Has changed a lot due to the raise of the Prussian education. Okay.
Like the rise of, the Prussian education.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, I mean, do you have anything else that's pressing?
No, just.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, we stream every Tuesday and Thursday at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time, as long as we are not, affected by the plague, as we have been in previous weeks. If you guys enjoyed the show, make sure you share the show. That is the best way to support us with people who you think would like the show. If you want to message Justin on our Twitter, ask him any question you want. He will answer it. Talk about Rust.
Well, so that is a type of oxidation that happens.
Or it's
when,
a great,
metal
awesome
is exposed
game,
to oxygen.
Which I have about 400 total hours in, probably.
God damn. I've never played
over
that
the course
game.
of many years.
It had really bad
It's
graphics.
so triggering. They're decent now, but it's so triggering.
Are they?
Yeah.
Okay. I've never tried it.
Anyway, yeah, so I think XC's on the right note. Thank you guys so much. We'll see you guys on Tuesday.
Yep. Love you guys. Peace.